Hello, this is Stevens92, and before I launch into my first video, I just wanted to give a quick introduction. So, my name's Stephen, of course, and I'm a massive football fan. I spend a lot of time watching football, reading about it, and I write about it too. And I've set up this channel so I can discuss it. Um, Specifically, the top four divisions of English men's football, so that's the Premier League, the Championship, League One, and League Two. I thought it was important not just to include the Premier League on this channel, as much as I really love it. I'm also an avid follower of the lower divisions and the English Football League. I wanted to share that as much as I could on this channel. Hence why it's called Stevens92. I want to cover all 92 clubs and strike as much of a balance as I possibly can. And I want to do that in an unbiased way. There are clubs that I do support, but I want to remove any feeling I have towards those clubs and not let that affect how I analyze things. Yes, and to honour that, my first video is actually predictions for the new League Two season. The new season starts in just a few days, and as always, I'm really excited for it. League Two this season looks interesting. Obviously, there'll be a lot of eyes on it this time, mostly because Wrexham are in it. They're finally back in the EFL after 15 years away. It's been a long time, and of course, due to their owners, there's a lot of media coverage about them. Some of it, in my opinion, I find a bit tiresome. Maybe in the past few months it's been going too far, but fair play to the owners. They do have one heck of a marketing campaign. Obviously they have the tools to do that, but yeah, you see Wrexham pretty much everywhere at the moment, and the media seem to be lapping it up. Talking of Wrexham, they're one of four teams who I think are strong contenders for automatic promotion. Certainly the four who are the favourites in my eyes anyway. And as fate would have it, all four of those teams are facing each other on the opening weekend. Wrexham, definitely one of the favourites for me. I don't think it's an absolute guarantee, despite the pre-season odds. I don't think it's an absolute guarantee that they would be promoted. Losing Paul Mullin in that friendly to what was an awful punctured lung clearly didn't help them. But although they have a really good chance on paper, and they could very well go up, and I wouldn't be surprised if they did. I don't think it's an absolute guarantee as maybe as much as other people do at the moment. But yes, they take on MK Dons first, and MK Dons definitely will be among the favourites as well. Their manager Graham Alexander has experience of taking teams up to League One, and let's be honest, MK Dons don't expect to be in League Two in the first place. It was a massive shock for them to be relegated. I couldn't believe how badly they struggled last season, and obviously just the season after finishing third, missing out on automatic promotion to the Championship very narrowly, and losing in the playoffs. I couldn't believe how they just fell away last season. But certainly they'll be among the favourites with the squad that they've managed to largely retain, their relative stature and facilities. You'd expect MK Dons to be right up there, and it would be a very interesting indication of where the two teams are at when Wrexham and MK Dons meet next weekend. The other two teams I have as my favourites to go up automatically. Obviously only three can. They are Gillingham and Stockport. Stockport were agonisingly close to promotion last season, losing the playoff final, of course, to Carlisle. of course, they would have comfortably went up automatically had they not um, just completely struggled in the opening weeks of the season. It took them a number of weeks, a number of games to start playing last season, and they were left to regret that in the end. But I think they have everything that's needed across their squad, the manager. I think Stockport are in a very good place in their second season back in the league to go up automatically, and they're my absolute favourites as things stand. I also rate Gillingham's chances highly. Gillingham's fortunes completely transformed by the takeover back in January. At that stage, they were bottom of League Two and could barely score to save their lives. But that takeover led to a huge influx of players, who have no business really being at the bottom of League Two, and they managed to pull away, and they've added subtly to that squad over the summer, and I think they're ready again for a promotion tilt, and I'd be very surprised if they're not up there. So those are my four main favourites for automatic promotion, but there's three other teams who I think could be in with a shout. One of those is Salford, who finally reached the playoffs last season. They were dejected to lose in a penalty shootout to Stockport in the semi-finals of that. But just getting to the playoffs has taken longer than scheduled at Salford, and they're desperate to get out of League Two. They're obviously another team with high-profile owners, and you'd fancy them to be up there again this time around. I've also included the other playoff semi-final losers, Bradford City, as one of the possible contenders as well. Bradford, probably the biggest club in League Two in terms of stature, although some might disagree. And they were close last season, and I think slightly further on in their development, they might have a good chance. And also Mansfield, who missed out on the playoffs narrowly last season. It feels like they've been one of the favourites for promotion for a long time, many years now, but they just haven't got over the line. One playoff final appearance, of course, they had the chance of automatic promotion going into the final day of the 2018-19 campaign, but it just hasn't happened for Mansfield for whatever reason, despite perennial backing. So maybe they'll have better luck this season, but it looks like an even more competitive League Two lies ahead. There's some teams as well who I think could finish in the playoffs, along with Wrexham. Notts County came up into League Two. Notts County returned after 4 years away to reclaim that infamous title as the world's oldest league club. And you have to say that they have every chance. They have every chance of making it back-to-back promotions. I mean, because of Wrexham's return and everything surrounding them, the achievement that Notts County had last season of accruing over 100 points in the National League perhaps didn't get as much credit as it deserved. It was an astonishing performance over the course of the season. The playoffs were traumatic for them, but they managed to come through. And any team with 100 points or more in the National League, you'd fancy them to take League Two by storm. So they'll have every chance, for me, of at least the playoffs this season. And of course, perhaps the signing of the summer in League Two, or maybe even definitely the signing of the summer, was David McGoldrick returning to the club after his goal glut for Derby County last season. That was a really eye-catching deal, and one which gives Notts County very high hopes, and they've managed to hold on to Macaulay Langstaff so far too, which is even better. Also, we have Doncaster Rovers. I must admit, given their struggles in the second half of last season, I was fearing for Doncaster. I was thinking that they might become perhaps another Southend or another Scunthorpe, in that they might, after dropping down to down from League One drop out of the EFL altogether very quickly. Some of their performances last season, were worrying enough, but they seem to be trying to draw a line under it. First of all, bringing back Grant McCann as manager was a real coup, and they got a lot of transfer business done very early this summer, and I think they might just start turning the corner, although it won't happen overnight. Another new manager is Michael Flynn at Swindon. I still think Flynn has a bit to prove. He didn't achieve as much as maybe what was expected of him at Walsall last season, and of course he ended up being sacked. Swindon fell away last term as well. They'll be hoping for better, and I feel like they've had a frustrating transfer window. They've not improved the squad as much as they need to, but it's a club that ought to be challenging for the playoffs. So that's why I've got them there. And also two teams who were relegated from League One last season, I think could be playoff contenders. One of them is Accrington. Things conspired against Accrington last season in League One. It was a surprise to me. I wouldn't never have tipped them for relegation at the beginning of the season. But John Coleman's in charge. I'm sure he'll turn the ship around again very quickly. He needs to rebuild the squad a little bit, but I think, given what Coleman's achieved at Accrington, I think he can get them back and moving in the right direction again. And also Morecambe's squad has changed completely really over the summer. But again, I look at the manager, Derek Adams, has achieved great things at the club already, has already won 2 promotions from League Two, and Morecambe fight hard. I think they're most likely to be mid-table, but I'm not ruling them out of a playoff challenge either. In terms of relegation, it's really hard in League Two to pick 2 teams who will go down. It feels super competitive this season, and there's only 3 teams I could really pick out that I looked at and thought, yes, they could be in serious danger of losing their league status. In reality, it could turn out to be much different than that, and lots of teams could be dragged into a scrap. But the 3 teams I have, one of them, interestingly, is AFC Wimbledon. I mean, I spoke about Doncaster just now, but the way AFC Wimbledon just completely subsided in the second half of last season, the winless run they went on, it was extremely alarming. And following that, Johnny Jackson, some would argue that he was lucky to stay in a job. AFC Wimbledon first season after being relegated from League One, finishing in 21st. It was, yes, not acceptable. And they've also lost key players in the summer. So I'd be a bit worried about them. The other 2, one of them Newport County, they're another team who've lost key players this summer. There are a few that stand out defensively, in particular Cameron Norman and Mickey Dimitriou, both rejecting new contracts, opting to go elsewhere. The lack of funds to bring players in, the budget, it's leaving Graham Coughlin a little bit hamstrung, and I'm not sure if they're that well equipped to compete as well as they want to this time. They still have Omar Bogle, who at times carried them last season, but yeah, I think Newport County could be in trouble. And also Harrogate. Harrogate, I think they're a team who have a very welcome habit of pulling out results when they need them. But they struggled last season. They flirted with relegation without ever dropping into the bottom 2. But I think they've got to be very careful. I think Harrogate might struggle. I didn't make this prediction with a great deal of confidence, but my instinct tells me at the moment that Harrogate would be down there. As for the other teams, I can't see Forest Green bouncing back quickly. Um, David Horseman is a rookie manager. Not that that's a weakness at all, but I do think the squad needs a lot of rebuilding work. Um, they weren't cut out for League One last season. That was clear to see. As you know, it became, let's be honest, increasingly embarrassing for them as they fell further and further adrift at the bottom. Um, so I think they just need to consolidate. We've also got Walsall. They're under the new management of Matt Sadler. Walsall have fallen well below expectations in League Two since they were relegated 4 years ago. They've been poor, struggled to rise beyond mid-table. Getting Dan Johnson back is a major plus, but I still need to be convinced that they can move towards the top 10, maybe even the playoffs. I still think they're a way away. Sutton United, they could be dark horses. I was surprised by how they fell away towards the end of last season. They seemed to have a lot of momentum behind them, but suddenly results took a turn for the worse, and yeah, that their season sort of fell flat. But I expect them to bounce back, and the signing of Amari Patrick recently, is a very exciting one. Tranmere's season last season was mediocre. They'd made some decent looking signings. I don't think the choice of manager was particularly inspiring to a lot of their supporters. So I think patience is needed at Tranmere, but they haven't done anything yet to convince me that they're about to make a giant improvement. And I think Crawley will rise up the table. Crawley, who spent most of last season threatened by relegation, there's still issues to sort out at the club. I still don't think the owners are 100% popular, but still Scott Lindsay has, he proved at both clubs he managed last season that he has potential, and could guide them up the table. I don't think they'll be setting their sights on the playoffs or anything yet, but I do expect a level of improvement from Crawley. Colchester, Ben Garner enters his first full season in charge. I was expecting slightly more activity in the transfer window, I must be honest, and they'll be hoping to keep hold of their right back Junior Chamadeu, who's been linked with other clubs. Again, Colchester, they're a team for me who've underachieved in recent seasons, but I still can't see them, making the progress that they're looking for. And Crewe spent most of last season in mid-table. Again, some decent signings, and they do have ability. Losing Daniel Ajay in the summer was disappointing. It was a big loss. But yeah, I'd be surprised if they if they didn't occupy a mid-table position again. One of the surprise packages for me last season were Grimsby, actually. Grimsby scraped promotion, it's fair to say, through the National League playoffs, but went on to have a very strong season in League Two. I never expected them to trouble the top half. Indeed, I thought they could have been the first club since the two promotion places was introduced to be relegated at the first time of asking, but that didn't come close to happening. Reached the quarterfinals of the FA Cup as well. I expect more of the same from Grimsby following that very commendable effort. So yeah, I was mighty impressed. And finally, we have Barrow. Barrow spent a lot of last season competing for a playoff place, which completely exceeded most people's pre-season expectations. I wasn't as surprised as some. I thought Barrow were very good, and they made the most of a good home record, but they could also pull out results away from home too. And I wouldn't underestimate them again. I think Barrow are a pretty useful side. Um, but I would say more mid-table. But of course, you know, I've only I've only tipped a few teams to struggle, and other teams are bound to. You never know what's going to happen, but that's just how I feel about each club at the moment. I think a lot of clubs have reason to be optimistic. Certainly, my prediction suggests that, and just how I feel about how League Two is shaping up. But yeah, I think it's a really wide open, competitive season. Um, you know, coming up. Uh, there are some big name clubs in it. There'll be a lot of attention on some more than others, and yeah, I think the promotion battle in particular will be very keenly contested. But I'd be also intrigued to see which teams struggle who you might not necessarily expect to. So yeah, there's a lot to look forward to in League Two this season, and yeah, it's exciting. Um, so yeah, thank you very much for watching, and yeah, if you have any predictions of your own that you're willing to share, let me know in the comments. If you'd like to subscribe, then please do, and yeah, give me a like. Thank you very much for watching.